You already know how to store data. You put it in a table, rows and columns like a spreadsheet. Here is one, a list of students. Across the top run the columns, an identity number, a name, an age, a major, and each student fills one row underneath. It looks casual. But the moment we make this idea precise, give every part an exact name and a few strict rules, it becomes the relational model, the foundation under almost every database you will ever meet. Let's name the parts. The whole table has a name. We call it a relation. When you hear relation, don't think of a relationship between people. Think table. This entire grid is one relation, and we've named it students. One horizontal line. Everything about a single student is a tuple. This row, 1, Asha, 20, CSE, is one tuple. 3 students here means 3 tuples. One vertical strip. The same field for everyone is an attribute. The age column is an attribute. The major column is another. So a relation is just tuples described by attributes. Every attribute has a domain, the set of values it is allowed to hold. Age is drawn from whole numbers. Major, from a fixed list of departments. The domain is the rule book for one column. Nothing outside it may ever appear. Two numbers describe the size of a relation, and people mix them up constantly. Let's pin them down by simply counting. First, the columns. The number of attributes. The number of columns is called the degree. Count them. ID, name, age, major. 1, 2, 3, 4. The degree of students is 4. The number of tuples, the number of data rows, is the cardinality. Count the rows. Asha, Rohan mein. 1, 2, 3. The cardinality is 3. And notice, we never count the header. That's the schema, not data. Here is the way to never forget it. Degree counts columns. It goes across. Cardinality counts rows. It goes down. Columns for degree, rows for cardinality. Swapping those two is the single most common slip. So lock it in now. Here's a lovely question that ties everything together. A relation is a set of tuples. So how many different tuples could it ever hold? Take a small relation, marks, with 2 attributes, a student ID and a subject. Each attribute draws from a domain. Say student IDs run from 1 to 100. That's 100 allowed values. And subject is one of just 3, math, physics, or chemistry. Every legal row is one allowed student paired with one allowed subject. The set of all such pairs is called the Cartesian product of the 2 domains, and its size is simply the product of the domain sizes. 100 students times 3 subjects. 100 times 3 is 300. So there are 300 possible distinct tuples, and that's the most rows this relation could ever contain, which gives us a hard ceiling. The cardinality of marks can never exceed 300. In general, multiply the domain sizes and you get the maximum possible cardinality, a neat consequence of a relation being nothing but a set of tuples drawn from its domains. Now separate two things that live in one table. First, the structure, the relation's name, and its list of attributes with their domains. We write it in a compact line. Students, then ID, name, age, major. This is the schema. Second, the data itself, the actual row stored right now. That set of tuples is the instance. The schema is the blueprint. The instance is what happens to be filled in at this moment. Watch what happens when the data changes. Right now, the cardinality is 3. Enroll 2 new students, Imran and Lata. Now remove Rohan. The cardinality drops to 4. Insert, delete, insert. The instance keeps shifting. But look at the header. The columns never moved. The schema stayed exactly the same, and so did the degree. 4. Here is the one idea that makes a relation more than a spreadsheet. A relation is a set of tuples. Just from the word set, 3 strict rules follow, and each one matters. A set has no repeats, so no two rows may be identical. A set has no order, so row order carries no meaning. And each entry holds exactly one value. We say the cell is atomic. Let's see each rule bite. Look at this table and 2 rules are already broken. The last 2 rows are identical twins, the very same tuple written twice. A set forbids that, and this cell holds 2 courses at once, D to B and OS crammed together. That's a list stuffed into one slot. The cell is not atomic. Both are illegal. The fix is clean. Throw away the duplicate row. A set keeps just one copy. Then give ashas to courses their own rows, one course per cell. Now every cell is a single value, and every tuple is unique. That is a proper relation. Sometimes a value is simply missing. We don't know Rohan's age. Maybe it was never recorded. The relational model has a special marker for exactly this: null. And here is the trap. Null is not zero. It is not an empty piece of text. It means unknown. The value exists in the world. We just haven't got it. Zero is a known age. Empty text is a known blank name. Null is the absence of knowledge. Because null is unknown, comparing with it gives a strange answer. Ask, is the age equal to null? And the honest reply isn't true or false. It's unknown. Comparisons touching null slip into a third truth value. We'll handle that carefully when we reach queries. For now, just remember, null means we do not know. Why split data across many tables at all? Because cramming everything into one giant table forces you to repeat information endlessly. Instead, keep each kind of thing in its own relation and link them. Here is students, trim down. And a second relation, enrollments, which student is taking which course. Notice its first column, student underscore ID. Those numbers are not new identities. They point back to the ID column over in students. Watch the link. Enrollment row 1 holds student 1. Follow the arrow and it lands on Asha. Row 2 holds student 3. That's me. The reference ties the two tables together without copying a single name. That pointing column has a name, a foreign key. It's the glue of the relational world, and it earns a whole lesson of its own. For now, just hold the picture. Separate tables, joined by shared values. Your turn. Here is a fresh relation courses. Pause the video right now and work out 2 numbers, its degree and its cardinality. Count carefully. Remember, which is which? Let's check. Degree is the number of columns. Code, title, credits. 1, 2, 3. So the degree is 3. Cardinality is the number of data rows. Databases, networks, algorithms, compilers. 1, 2, 3, 4. The cardinality is 4. If you got degree 3 and cardinality 4, and you didn't swap them, you have understood this lesson. Trap 1, the classic. Swapping degree and cardinality. Degree counts columns. Cardinality counts rows. Across for degree, down for cardinality. Trap 2, forgetting it's a set. There are no duplicate rows, and there is no first or last row. If your logic depends on row order, it's already wrong. Trap 3, stuffing a list into a cell. Every cell holds exactly one value. Comma-separated lists in a single slot break the model. That's what extra rows or tables are for. And trap 4, mistreating null. It is not zero. It is not empty text. It means unknown. And comparisons that touch it come back neither true nor false. Let's lock it all in. A relation is a table. A tuple is a row. An attribute is a column. That vocabulary unlocks every database conversation. It's two sizes. Degree is the number of columns. Cardinality is the number of rows. Across for degree, down for cardinality. The schema is the fixed structure, the name and the attributes. The instance is the data that happens to be stored right now, changing with every insert and delete. And above all, a relation is a set. Each cell atomic. No duplicate rows, no order to lean on. That simple, precise idea, data as sets of tuples, is the bedrock beneath keys, relational algebra, and the entire language of SQL. Everything ahead is built on this.